Despite the sanctions, Estonian homes are still being warmed by Russian gas. Trump is threatening Putin with more sanctions. Oh, that is like threatening a shark with more water. India is creating a new mini Quad in West Asia or in the Middle East. Sanctions are supposed to cripple a country. Iran looked at the idea, laughed, and turned it into a business opportunity. Hello and welcome to Global News Factory. I'm your host Vikrant. Estonia banned Russian gas like a loyal little EU soldier. Clapped along when Brussels said, "No more Kremlin energy," puffed its chest and declared, "We will freeze before we fund Putin." But common sense had other plans. Despite the sanctions, Estonian homes are still being warmed by Russian gas. How? Well, Estonia stopped buying directly from Russia and started buying the same gas from Latvia. Yes, Latvia, who is quietly shopping at the Kremlin's discount aisle, repackaging it and sending it over legally. Here is the game. The EU banned the import of Russian liquefied petroleum gas or the LPG last December. But the ban only applies at the entry point into the EU. Once Russian gas is inside, say in Latvia, it is fair game. Free movement of goods, thank you very much. So, Latvia, always the creative one, keeps buying cheap Russian LPG, mixes it with EU paperwork, and offloads it to Estonia. Estonian companies happily buy it because it is 15 to 20% cheaper than the overpriced freedom gas from Sweden or the US. Estonian customs? Hands tied. Once it is in the EU, it is basically invisible. On paper, Latvia's butane exports to Estonia have tripled this year. Nothing suspicious here, just good old paper magic. So, what did Estonia's heroic Russian gas ban actually achieve? Higher bills, a fake sense of moral victory, and a booming backdoor market for the same fuel it tried to boycott. Sometimes ideology runs headfirst into economics, and economics wins every time. And this reminds me of the EU's genius oil game plan, a masterclass in how to lose money while pretending to win a war. Let's rewind. Europe slapped a ban on Russian crude oil. Bold move. They declared, "We will no longer fund Putin's war machine." And then Europe turned around and bought the same Russian oil, but after it was refined in India, here in India. You heard that right. Russian crude goes to Indian refineries, gets processed into diesel, petrol, etc., and then gets shipped back to Europe. Now, with a fancy new Made in India tag and a premium price. India played this smartly. They bought Russian crude at a discount, refined it, and sold it to Europe at a markup and made fortunes out of it. No sanctions broken, no rules violated, just pure capitalism. Meanwhile, the EU got the exact same oil, just wearing a different outfit, like a guy sneaking back into the club with a fake mustache. And EU citizens, they got slapped with higher fuel prices, all for the privilege of not buying directly from Russia. This was not a sanctions policy, it was an international shell game. And that is why I always say EU is the graveyard of common sense and logic. Moving on, Trump is threatening Putin with more sanctions. Oh, that is like threatening a shark with more water. Let's face it, Russia is already the most sanctioned country on the planet. Thousands of sanctions, asset freezes, import bans, export bans, banking blacklists, luxury goods embargoes, tech restrictions, you name it. And yet, Russia's economy is doing better than most of Europe, which now resembles a man stuck in an expensive trench coat begging for gas money. But here comes Trump on board Air Force One, pouting to the press about his phone call with Putin. He wants to go all the way, just keep killing people, it is no good.
I told you I was very unhappy with my call with President Putin. And it just seems like he wants to go all the way and just keep killing people. No good. It's not good. I wasn't happy with it.
Mr. President, are there any...
Then came the punchline. He understands that more sanctions may be coming. Coming from where, Trump? Mars? Because from Earth, you have already fired every sanction bullet in the NATO bazooka. And guess what? It did not break Russia, it made them faster at self-reliance, smarter at global trade, and bolder in foreign policy. Meanwhile, Europe, the sidekick in this sanctions saga, is buying refined Russian oil from India, as I mentioned earlier. Importing the oil from the countries it once tried to lecture and is now grumbling about America's overpriced military gear. And here is what Trump does not get. Russia has already spelled out its terms clearly, loudly, repeatedly. Number 1, no NATO for Ukraine. Number 2, demilitarize the region. Number 3, formally acknowledge new borders. And number 4, protect Russian-speaking people who have been sidelined and silenced. And these are not new demands. These were Russia's red lines since 2014. The West ignored them, Ukraine danced around them, and here we are, 3 years, thousands of lives lost, and a completely reshaped global order. And about that killing people line, maybe Trump should also ask NATO, who sent weapons worth billions into Ukraine, expanding the war instead of pushing for peace. Because Lavrov is not exactly speaking in riddles here. Russia wants guarantees, not a new empty round of promises served with a sanctions threat. Bottom line, if Trump thinks his talk tough, tweet louder routine will scare Moscow, he is stuck in past. What is the need of the hour is diplomacy with backbone, because Russia is done playing checkers, and if the West does not show up with the real talks, it is going to lose the whole board. And now let's talk about Turkey. Turkey is playing double games, and it is not even being subtle about it. A few months ago, Ankara was sweet-talking BRICS and was flirting with the bloc designed to counter Western hegemony. Now, it is doing everything short of joining NATO's dance squad. Let's break it down. In Russia's backyard, Turkey is using Azerbaijan like a joystick. The recent crackdown on Russian media in Baku was not some cleaning exercise, it was a direct slap to Moscow's face. 7 Sputnik media persons arrested, 8 IT experts paraded as criminals with bruised faces and zero explanation. This is not just disrespect, it is provocation. Russian observers are not fooled, they are all pointing fingers at the same power in the background, Turkey. Ankara has slowly become Azerbaijan's security blanket, and while Turkey does not have the muscle to replace Russia in the region, it is being used like a tactical bargaining chip. For Baku, Turkey is the stick they wave while they poke the bear. For example, this. A former Azerbaijani MP said that the country should host a Turkish military base, something that would not go down well with Russia. Ildar Namazov, who is quite a name in Azerbaijan, said the country was facing threats from Russia as well as Iran, and that's why they must welcome Turkish military presence. So it's clear, Turkey is very much there in the big picture. And then there is India. In recent flare-up with India, guess who quietly offered support to Pakistan? Turkey, sending drones like party favors, all of them blown to pieces, shattered by Indian and Russian-made defense systems. So much for Erdogan's game-changer toys. Turkey's master plan is clear. It wants to exploit every pressure point around Russia and India, from the Caucasus to Kashmir, and use local proxies to do the dirty work. But now India is done playing nice. India is creating a new mini Quad in West Asia or in the Middle East, a bloc of nations that all have serious bones to pick with Turkey or its junior partner Azerbaijan. The four countries are, of course, India is there, Greece, Cyprus, and Armenia. What is common in all these four countries? Each of them has a history with Ankara's expansionist tantrums. And together they have got one goal: put Turkey back in its box. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi's recent visit to Cyprus was more than symbolic. He stood near northern Cyprus, Turkish occupied land. That is not sightseeing, that is geopolitical theater with a front row seat. Here is the big picture. Turkey thought it could charm BRICS while bullying BRICS members. It wanted Russia's respect while stepping on Russia's media and citizens in Azerbaijan. It wanted India's friendship while arming India's enemy. And now Turkey is cornered and circled by countries it has provoked: Greece, Armenia, Cyprus, Egypt, and now India. Erdogan has been playing chess with one hand, poker with the other, but now the pieces are turning against him. You cannot shake hands with BRICS while handing drones to Pakistan, and you cannot be in Russia's neighborhood lighting fires and expect not to get burned. And in the end, Iran. Sanctions are supposed to cripple a country. Iran looked at the idea, laughed, and turned it into a business opportunity. Despite being one of the most sanctioned nations on earth, yes, right up there with Russia and North Korea, Iran's economy is booming, especially in oil, the very sector the US has tried to choke for decades. Let's talk numbers that will make Washington wince. Iran's oil production hit a 46-year high last year. Energy exports earned Tehran a staggering $78 billion last year. That is more than 4 times what they earned 5 years back. Meanwhile, the US is still playing whack-a-mole with sanctions networks like the one announced this week, a supposed Iranian oil smuggling ring disguising shipments as Iraqi oil. Oh, and they also went after a Hezbollah-linked bank because that somehow makes a difference. Cute. But here is the real kicker. Sanctions do not work when the world's second largest economy, China, is your top customer and does not care about US tantrums. Iran and China have mastered the art of sailing under the radar. Oil gets loaded, IDs get switched, transponders get turned off, papers get forged, tankers do the maritime version of hide and seek, and boom, Iranian oil is on your breakfast table, labeled something else entirely. And the US, sometimes it just looks the other way. Why? Because it is addicted to low oil prices. Push too hard and prices spike, which means inflation, angry voters, and unhappy poll numbers. So, Washington pretends to punish Iran while quietly thanking them for not sending crude to $120 a barrel. This is not just sanctions failing, it is sanctions becoming theater, a show that looks tough but does nothing. Iran's strategy is simple: outsmart, outmaneuver, outlast. And right now, they are winning. Not with tanks, but with tankers. Not with nukes, but with no-nonsense energy economics. Thank you very much for staying with me. You're watching Global News Factory.